All right, it's the next morning. Well, I'm not happy with the gap. This must have moved in the jig. Huh. Yeah. This was square, plumb, and flush when I went home last night. I still got to drill a hole and put a pin in, which means I have to sand this all over again and rebuff it. And I may get to that today. We were gonna go shopping today, but it's supposed to rain like hell, hail, possible tornadoes, and we don't want to be away from the house if that happens. So I'm gonna drink my last cup of coffee. Last cup of coffee. This is cup 3 of my morning 3 cups, and then get to work. So I'm gonna drink my coffee, and then that Simplicity mower, I have worked on that thing. And I bought a new carburetor. You know, I rebuilt the old carburetor, and it's still, it ran for a little while, ran great. And it's not, and it's got something to do with float and needle valve seat. And I'm just not going to mess with it. That's the original, and this is the Chinese. Oh, and the fuel solenoid quit working. So it's just been one thing after another with that stinking Simplicity. And it's a Kohler engine. It's a great engine. I mean, if I can ever get it running right, we'll have it the rest of our lives, because Kohler's a good engine, and the transmission is a good transmission. It's a hydrostatic, so it's got good bones, I guess you'd say, but the accessories, the peripherals, I'm getting tired of that. I just put a head gasket on it, and for about 2 days it ran fine, and then the carburetor started messing up again. So now that I know exactly without a doubt what kind of engine it is, now I went ahead and bought a Chinese carburetor to replace it. So we'll see. I'm fixing to go do that after I drink my coffee. Yesterday, the whole time I was working in here, I had a wasp flying around on my windows here trying to get out. He came in through the open door, and I didn't kill him. And then I forgot about him. I got involved on the other side of my shop with his knife. And this morning I come in, and he was still on that window trying to get out. And I thought to myself, that's sort of like what I'm doing with these knives and what I'm doing with this Simplicity. Over and over and over and over. I'm trying and trying and trying and trying. And I felt pity for the wasp that would love to sting me. And he was right here on my window. So I reached over. These two things here open the window, you pull them in towards each other, then you lift up. And I lifted the window up about 1 inch, and he didn't realize it, so I took this little block of wood and I knocked him down, and he flew out that crack of window. And I thought to myself, I am getting older. My brain, my heart is changing. And it was no less effort to set him free than it was to kill him. No more effort to set him free than it was to pick something up and kill him. And I commend him for his efforts to get out. That doesn't mean nothing to anybody but me, but that's where I'm at with these knives. I have 5 more possible chances to figure this out. And if I don't have it, if I haven't got it figured out, if I haven't gotten good at it, then I'm just gonna go back to making full tang knives, which a friend of mine, Errol, said, full tang knives are strong like bull. And they are. Just a minute, baby. Oh, all right. So that's what I have. I have this shorter BC 45, Texas 45, and I've got 4 more of the longer ones up there. So that's it. If I haven't figured out how to do this in 5 more knives, then I have to admit to myself that that's the wall. And, you know, I've mentioned this before. All my life, I have come up to a point where, to me, in my mind, in my brain, there seems like there's a wall from preventing me from getting any further. When I was a child in school, I sincerely believe that I have some type of learning disability, some kind of block, because I experienced this even in grammar school and junior high and high school. And about the middle of junior high school, I just gave up trying because nothing could get me past the wall, this wall of learning. And I just gave up. And for the rest of my life, I got C's, D's, and F's. C's if the teacher took pity on me, and D's if they didn't want to see me again in their class, and F's if they didn't care. And I quit caring at some point. I quit caring. And I mostly in high school, I quit going. I went just enough to, you know, stay out of lots of trouble. And often enough, I skipped school and took a bus up to Springfield, Mass. And hung out. Got in lots of trouble, did lots of bad things, smoked lots of terrible things. Well, not so terrible. And, you know, I tried learning German when I was in Germany, and I got pretty good, but I didn't get fluent, which in 3 years I should have been fluent, because I was around German people. All my friends, you know, I joined the Army when I was 17. I was in Germany. I was 17 years old, and most soldiers were much older than that. So I kind of started hanging out with German kids my own age. And most, you know, some of them, they were still in school. And I learned German pretty good, but I realized that I was coming up against the same wall of understanding or learning. And it's the same with, I'll tell you, the next time I got so aggravated that I gave up was when I was trying to get my ham license. And it was just read and remember, which is where my problem lies. Reading and remembering, or even understanding what I'm reading. And I have come to believe as I've gotten older that there's just something wrong with the way my brain learns that is not like everyone else. Because there's lots of people who pass the ham test, and I took that test 3 times and failed it all 3 times. It's embarrassing, but it's the truth. And over the years, I've come upon lots of other things that I just made it to a certain point and couldn't get any further. And I think that's where I'm at with these knives, that full tang, the hidden tang knives. My full tang knives, I'm very happy with the progress I've made, and I feel in my heart that I put out some good knives that I'm proud of, my full tangs. These, I've made 3 knives, but the last one I made, even though I had lots and lots of trouble, it finally came out good. And this one, once I got past the initial screw up of this, which was the original handle, I was pretty happy. And then I come out and I see this gap here. It's filled with epoxy, so it's not going anywhere. But I don't feel good selling this. I don't want to ask money for this. I don't know. I'm getting tired of trying. I'm telling you the truth. I'm really getting tired of trying to get past that wall of, I don't even know what to call it when it comes to this. It's not learning. It's not understanding. I know what I need to do, although I am kind of, now I've watched a million videos and no one addresses this one area, which is fitting the handle to the guard to the tang. I mean, there's three things that got to be perfect. And I've only lucked out on the other knives. And I thought this was going to be, you know, finally a good knife. And it's a good knife except for the gap. Let me see if I can focus this a little bit better. There we go. You see what I'm talking about? When I went home yesterday, that was square and plumb up against the brass guard. And now I have a, you know, a 32nd of a gap there. And then I've got a tiny bit of epoxy. Where is it? Right there, right here. And I sat here for 2 hours with a Q-tip with acetone mopping up epoxy. So, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, and maybe y'all are getting tired of me thinking and talking instead of shutting up and doing. So, I'm almost done with my coffee. I'm gonna go to my other shop, put this carburetor on that lawnmower. Change the oil. I did put some oil. I did change the oil before, and I was too ashamed to show you what it looked like. It was gray. But I didn't have an oil filter. And I looked at the oil filter, and I swear, I think that is the original factory oil filter on a 23-year-old, or 26 or 27, what is it? 26-year-old lawnmower. No, 28-year-old lawnmower. Can you imagine? It's got 300 hours or so, 330 or something like that. And it looks like the original factory oil filter, which would make sense because it has been terribly abused. So there we go. That's what I'm doing here in the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to sit here and lick my wounds over that. That's a really gross saying, lick my wounds. Yeah, I'm not going to say that anymore because just the mental image of that is not good. So I'm going to sit here and dwell on this. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it, and I will offer it to the guy at a less than probably 125 with a sheath, because, you know, it's still a usable. I mean, the blade is nice. Anyway, I'll ask him if he's still interested in it with that gap, because there's nothing I can do about the gap now. Alrighty, I'm gonna drink my coffee, bet my best friend, and we'll be back. This is what else I was talking about learning German, or trying to, when I was a kid. And I did get fairly good at German, but not fluent. And when I came back to the States, I decided I was going to learn Spanish, because really, Spanish is a language that you can use anywhere in the southern states, and in some larger cities like Chicago and that kind of thing. And I wanted to learn Mexican type Spanish, not Puerto Rican type Spanish or Spain type Spanish. So I got books, I got tapes, I got CD tapes, yeah, that's how old I am. I got an album. And I tried and tried and tried. And, you know, going down the road, I had lots of time to listen and repeat. And I did the same thing. I got good enough where I could order food, or if I was, you know, at a truck stop and I asked the attendant for extra towels, Señor, ¿puedes darme uno más toalla, por favor? You know, very little Spanish, but I understood what I learned. I understood and could use. And food, you know, lechuga, tomata, cebolla. But not even 10% of what I want to know, or even, you know, knowing enough to have a conversation in Spanish. And now I still want to learn Spanish. And I want to learn Spanish now because I want to be in a position to help people who may be coming to this country and could use a little hand, you know, a little direction, a little guidance, even just handing out food at the food bank. Spanish would come in handy. But I kind of give up on that because I realized I hit the wall. So here we go. I'm going to stop talking again and drink my coffee and get to work. Okay, I was going to attempt to put a pin in this, and I'm not going to. It's going to ruin the handle. And the reason I can't drill a pinhole before is because I have to have this thing on before I can drill a hole through the handle and the tang and make the two meet up and repeat that. So to do it now, I'd ruin both sides of the handle and have to go way back. See, you have to polish the pin. You got to sand the pin down to, probably, I'd have to start at 220. And, and I bring these up to 800 to 1,000 grit. So I'd have to basically start from the very beginning again in order to sand the pin down where it won't have, the cut marks in it from where I cut it off. And that's nothing. There's no way to cut it off even with the handle without screwing up the handle. So I may just, I don't think he's going to want this without the pin and with a gap. So this may just be something, I don't know. I'll think about it. I'm not going to put the pin in, I know that, because it's going to ruin what work I've done. And there's no way to get the pin in before it gets to this point because you have to finish the handle before you put it on the knife. So your only option is to wait till this is epoxied on and finished and then drill a hole. And then you go back to almost square one, sanding the handle and the pin down. So that's not possible. Alrighty, now I'm really going to the other side. Well, I put the final buff on it, and it looks better with the final buff. I say final buff. I put the edge on them, and then I run them across my buffer one more time and put a coat of wax on them. All right, this time, I know I've said it, but I'm fixing to go over there and get to work. As soon as that oil warms up, I'm gonna change it. I'll let it run a little while, change it. Okie dokie. I'm just gonna let that drain for about 10 minutes. That's why I ran it so long, to warm that oil up so it all drain out. Okay, just a few more minutes and I'll be done out here. I can go back to my life. it'll last a few more years. I know I'm getting tired of working on it. All right, and now we're gonna go fishing. Here's my fishing rod. Got one. God, that's a strong magnet. Yeah, only needed that to hold the air breather on. No big deal. Probably a 1/4 20. All right, now we're going to suck oil with that out of there and put them in these so we can dump them off at the recycling facility. So that's not exciting. Fishing was exciting. We'll be back.